Today's project is the repair of the starter rope for a Bolens 2-cycle BL410 rototiller. It's made by MTD and very similar to others like Craftsman and so forth. And ever this happen where you're going to pull the rope and it pulled right out? Well, that's what we're going to fix. This rope is how many years old, I don't know. Could be 15, 20 years old. So I'm going to go and get a new one. The old rope was about 36 inches long. And this one I found at AutoZone. And it says that it's 80 inches. It was about $5.50 plus tax. I like the feel of the old handle, so I'm going to save the old handle. I just pulled the rope out. Before starting the project, it's a good idea to put the switch in the off position and disconnect the spark plug wire. The power head is held on with several screws. They're Torx bits, and the little blue is where that particular one is stripped, so I put some plastic in to wedge in the screw on a previous repair. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to take these screws out. As you get the last of the screws out, you have to support the whole power head because the weight just makes it want to dangle. Then it just pulls straight off, exposing the clutch. The kill switch cable and the throttle cable were long enough that I could just lean it up against the workbench and place the power head on the workbench. The shank of my Torx bit tool won't fit down inside the hole, so I had to get my other Torx bits, which is this particular assembly right here. Now that I have the T20 bit engaged in this screw that holds the clutch on, watch what happens as I turn. See the flywheel turning? So I'm going to stick a screwdriver into the plastic fingers here and engage the teeth on the flywheel. Here's how I'll be doing it. Some people will take the spark plug out, but in this case it'll work fine, but it takes two hands to hold everything, so I'll show you when it's loose. Okay, so the screw is loosened. So there she goes, it's all off. Next we have to loosen the nut which holds the flywheel in place, and then remove this cover. If you look at the clutch, it has an off arrow showing the direction of rotation to get it off. Some people take the spring off, but I don't find it's necessary. So I'm going to grab it like this with the channel locks, and again insert the screwdriver into the flywheel. This nut that holds the flywheel on was on very tight. If you don't have it tight, the flywheel itself will work loose and shear its key, which is what happened on this one. Also remember to grab the washer when you take this off. This washer. Now we take the remaining air housing screws off. So here we go. There's 3 Torx on mine and 2 Allens because I replaced the bracket, made a heavy metal one out, and the little screws just wouldn't hold, so I went to a bigger screw. The screw that's in this part, it's a coarse thread, like a wood screw, where the 2 on either side, those are machine screw threads. Use the battery screw gun to get those other 2 screws. I put Loctite on them because they were working loose, so they were difficult to get out. The flywheel cover. Free. Now we have the screws out. And this is the part we want to get access to. Take those 2 screws out, get to the recoil winder. Free of the coil. Take a pick or a very small screwdriver and nudge the rope through the hole. The rope is started in the hole. And there you can see it right there. So I'll pull it a little bit more and tie a single overhand knot on it, as was on the original. It's just a single overhand knot. Before cutting the line, after you've threaded the line all the way through the bushing, set the recoil hub in place and then stretch the line. See, I've marked the line with a Sharpie. That's where the knot's going to end up being, so that gives me a good reference point. The next thing I'm going to do is thread the pull handle on before the end is cut. And stick it through your pull rope, otherwise this frays when you cut it. You'll have to sear it to stop it. This is the knot they have at the pull handle end. It's similar to the overhand, but it goes through the loop twice instead of just once. And when it's tied tight, it looks like that. Here's my Sharpie mark showing where the double knot needed to go. There's my pull handle. I'm going to take a wire cutters, cut here, and then use a lighter and melt the end of the rope a little bit so it doesn't fray. Here you can see the end frayed. Now you see the rope is wound tight. You see the notch in the clock spring ready to go. What you have to do is place this pulley down in the clock spring, pull the rope up, and crank it one turn to get the recoil spring to where it will pull the rope all the way in. Here, the recoil hub is all the way down on the clock spring, and I can feel it springing. And now I grab this line and I twist it around one time. You see how they've got notches? Makes it easy to do. I have one turn of this hub with the rope pulled around. And I'm going to demonstrate. The tabs are in place. Now to tighten the screws. Screws are in place. See, the recoil works. Now we place the completed recoil unit back on the motor shaft. Hard to do one-handed. Be sure to get all of the wiring back in the proper slots. And then put all these screws back in place. Drop of Loctite on each screw. Drop a Loctite on each of these screws. This is the gas tank support bracket. Now that I have the coarse screw here, the two machine screws here, and these two Allen screws that hold the gas can support bracket in place, we're ready to put on the flywheel clutch nut. So first the washer, and then this nut. Remember, it's got a washer on it too, and it just screws into place. This needs to be secured very tight. Again, this is the method I used, and it needs to be very, very tight. Now that the flywheel nut is in place, we can see that this is going to turn, but I'm fighting compression, and the recoil works. Reinstall the clutch. Of turning. Just like the clutch nut, you want to tighten and have some force against this, but I can't do it one-handed. Now put the power head back on the shaft. Really hard to do one-handed. Got it in place. Now I put the screws in it.